it's Adrianne from Math for Middles. Thanks so much for joining me today. I wanted to talk to you about mental math and the distributive property. I believe that students should be exposed to the idea of the distributive property at much earlier grades than they are right now, because this skill will serve them for a long time to come and be very helpful when they're doing higher levels of math, and also be a powerful tool when they're trying to do some mental math, even though we all know they can pull out their calculator. Often, if they learn this strategy of distributive property, they can actually do it faster than navigating to the app, opening that calculator, and getting to work. So let's talk about what that strategy is. Now, with my students, we do a lot of groundwork before we start maximizing this distributive property, and we begin by learning what numbers are made of, so part of their number sense. And a lot of my students, even though they're on the older side, they do not have a really good number sense. And so we go back to place value. And then we start practicing this mental math every single time we meet together. So let me show you how the strategy works. Now, a lot of my students, when they see 21 times 8, they're thinking, oh my goodness, that's way too big of a number. I can't do that math. But when I ask them, well, what's 21 made of? That strikes up some curiosity for them. And so we actually will type that out. Well, 21 is made of 20 and 1. Okay, good. So 21 is made of 2 tens and 1 1. And then we have this 8 out here, this 8, which we can distribute. And so I'm showing you visually the mental math that happens, but we practice talking about this. So we start with the 20 there, and we say, well, what's 8 times 20? And we think about it. Okay, that's 160. Great. Okay, we're going to hold that number in our mind. So we say it 3 times to ourselves: 160, 160, 160. That's our first distribution. 8 times 20 is 160. Then the next one we do is this 8 times the 1, which is 8. And so we say, what's 8 times 1? It's 8. What was the first number? 160. What's the answer? 168. And so that's how the mental math part of the distributive property works, which is a really powerful tool, especially as you get older. So let's walk through a few more examples, and then I'll show you how it ties into the higher levels of math. So here we've got that 5 times 42. So again, I say, what's 42 made of? Well, it's made of 40 and 2. Okay, great. It's made of 40 and 2. So now we're going to distribute that 5. We're going to multiply it out. Let's scoot that a little closer. And I'll start with the 40. What's 5 times 40? Oh, that's 200. Okay, hold that number in your head. 200, 200, 200. Now let's do the next one. 5 times 2, that's 10. So our answer altogether, the 200 and the 10, 210. And so students start seeing like, oh, I can do this. I can do this. And this is actually a lot faster than pulling out that calculator. And sometimes my students get so distracted when they get that calculator out. They see a notification on their phone, or they see that Instagram button and they're like completely lost on what they were doing. And so practicing this mental math is a really important part. So let's do another one. Now you might be wondering, well, what about more than 1 digit times 2 digit? So let's look at that. Same kind of question happens here. So what's 12 made of? Well, it's made of 1 10 and 2 1s. And then we have 31. What's 31 made of? Well, 30 and 1. Okay, now we need to talk through this a little bit. So what is happening here is we need to distribute the 2 to each one of these, and then we need to distribute the 10 to each one of these. So let's walk through that. We're going to start with the 2. So I'm going to write it out so you can see it. 2 times 30. Well, that's 60. Great. Let's move to the next one. 2 times 1. 2 times 1 is 2. And we're holding these in our head, by the way. Now let's move over to the 10 and the 12. We're going to do 10 times the 30. And that is 300. And then we have the 10 times the 1. And we have distributed everything out. Okay? And now the student just needs to add those together. So we have 300, the 60 and the 10, that makes 370, and the answer is 372. And this is huge. This is such an important skill and one they're going to use as they approach middle school and they go into high school and they're doing higher levels of algebra. So I'm going to show you the connection now. So this is a skill that we practice every day when we're working with students in math for middles, the mental math using the distributive property. But when we get to algebra, I'm sure you're remembering now, this is the distributive property. We're multiplying an x to everything inside of the parentheses. And this is what our number is made of. And so going back to this to look really quick, what's 31 made of? 3 10s and 1 1. What's 24x plus 8? Well, it's made of 24 x's and 8 1s. So we can distribute again, and this will seem supernatural to the students because they'll already have had a lot of experience with it. So when we have two x's multiplied together, we get an x squared. So we have 24x squared plus an 8x. Try that again. There we go. And so we distributed that 8 or distributed the x to the 8. And so now you can see that this distributive property is super valuable. We're using it a lot when we get into algebra. And then it becomes really useful when we get to this kind of stuff. Now, when I went to school, everyone loved FOIL, right? First, outside, inside, last. They still are using this to this day. However, for our students who struggle with directionality, remembering what's left, right, this is a mess for them. It's really hard. But when we master that distributive property, this becomes a lot easier, and we don't have to rely on that acronym. We can just apply the distributive property. So I'm going to draw some arrows here. So we're going to distribute the 3. We'll distribute that first, and then the 3 to the 5, right? So let's multiply. We have 3x, and 3 times 5, that's 15. Okay, that's our first one. Now we need to distribute the second one. So we're going to distribute the x here to this x, and then the x over here to the 5. Let's do that. X to distributed to the second x is x squared. Okay, and then we have x times the 5, and we have 5x. Okay, and then it comes up to the child. We need to combine like terms. So we're going to combine those together, and we'll get the x squared. And I can't see. Let's see. I'm going to hit done for a second. Here we go. Okay, x squared, and then we have 3x plus the 5x, that's 8x, and the 15 at the end. So now you can see how that distributive property plays into where they're moving in the future. And so learning it when you're younger is really helpful, and this part doesn't make it so scary. So I love that my students are getting comfortable with it and using it for mental math, which is awesome. And so Mary Kate, you're sharing a comment, and so I'm going to read it out loud. So she's saying, my son's third grade curriculum is using the distributive property. Hooray, not all of them do, as a way to recognize factors of 6 and 7. They might not know 4 times 7, but they are likely to know 4 times 2 and 4 times 5. Love it. Oh, that decomposing of numbers. That's fascinating, and I love that. Mary, hooray. Applaud your teachers. That's awesome, because a lot of teachers just harp on memorization of those math facts, but I love that they can decompose that 7. And so that is a fantastic strategy. And a lot of students are struggling with numbers above 6, so 7, 8, 9. And so using that strategy is so helpful. So if you're not sure what I'm talking about, I'm going to show them really quick, Mary Kate. So like she was saying, okay, my student is trying to do 4 times 7. And if they're anything like my students, okay, that is a math fact that's like super hard for them and very frustrating. But they could come up with a different way to name that 7. They could decompose it, which means to break it apart. So they could do a 2 and a 5, It's a brilliant strategy here. Okay, and we use the parentheses again as a grouping symbol. And then we have this times 4 out here, which is what she was talking about. So this 4 times 2, that's 8. And then we have 4 times 5, well, that's 20. And again, they can get back to the math fact, which is 28. I adore this strategy because it's so smart and it helps our students become very flexible thinkers when it comes to math and not this like skill set of rote memorization. So bravo, Mary Kate. I am super excited about that. And I would love to know the name of the curriculum that your son is using at their school, because a lot of curriculums are not using that. So I would love to know what your school is using. That would be super fascinating. So the distributive power is super awesome. It's one of my favorites, and it's a skill that every student needs to have in their back pocket when they arrive to the middle school years. So if you would like some help getting your child these kinds of tools in their tool belt, reach out to us. We'd be happy to help you. We work with students anywhere from 5th grade all the way up into high school here at Math for Middles, and all of us are trained in multisensory math. And we use a lot of these strategies every single day. We work on that mental math piece like I showed you. So if you are curious and want to learn more about that, head over to mathformiddles.com. We would love to help you. And we always do a free trial so that you can see what tutoring is like. And I appreciate you being here. And Mary Kate, thank you so much for contributing to the conversation. I hope you'll join me again next Tuesday, and we'll talk more about strategies that your student needs to be doing really well in school. Thanks so much, and have a great day. Did you like our math video? Make sure to send in your questions and we'll answer it the multisensory way. Don't forget to subscribe, share, and like our videos.